Hi, Callan for 74XX back with another arcade PCB repair. This time I've got the Stone Cold Classic Punch-Out from Nintendo. Let's get started. I've been told this board has stopped booting, and before it stopped booting, it started showing some graphical errors on the player graphics. Let's start by taking a look at the board. So here is Punch-Out. This is the CHP1-02 version. There are two versions, so you have to make sure that when you take a look at the schematics, you select the right one. This is the CPU board, and the game is actually run by a Z80. Here's the ROMs down here, and a couple of RAM chips. But you will also find up here the RP2A03 processor. This is the same as, or basically the same as what's in a Nintendo Entertainment System home console. And it's running the sound in tandem with the VLM 5030, which is like a speech processor. So the music at least can run basically independently from the CPU since it has its own ROM and RAM. This arrangement of the audio being somewhat separate from the CPU is very common on most arcade boards. Of course, Punch-Out was originally a two-monitor game with the score and stats on the top monitor and the action on the bottom monitor. I only have one here and only one capture card, so I've made a test rig that allows me to switch between the two. So here's the JAMA adapter I have wired up. Basically, the video signals come down to this switch, and I can switch it up and down to get the top or bottom monitor. But because the colors are inverted, I also have to use an inverter board. This is an original one from a Sanyo 20EZ monitor that would be with a Punch-Out anyway. And I use this to invert the colors so we get the proper signals on the display. This board also has provision for saving high scores with the battery pack here. Of course, if you have left old batteries in it, you're likely to have a lot of corrosion. You can see some down here, but it hasn't made its way into the actual circuitry yet, so we're fine there. All right, let's turn on the board and see what we have. Oh, I actually heard a little bit of sound. Interesting. But just kind of garbage on the screen. Let me switch my monitor to the other screen. Okay, well, it's got something there, but it's not any better. Okay, so it's looking like the CPU is not running. The game is just not running at all. All right, taking a look at the schematics on the first page, on the upper left side, we have all our familiar stuff. We have our clock over here at 8 megahertz. We have some of our timing stuff here and the Z80. Let's take a look at some of the data outputs here. So I'll check pins 7, 8, and 9. 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so there's data on the Z80 bus. It's not doing a whole lot, but it is there. Let's go up a little bit higher and check out the address buses just to make sure. Let's check the lower address pins A0 to A5 starting at pin 30. So there's pin 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Should check the reset pin, of course. Okay, so the reset pin is not going up and down. So with the reset pin not toggling, that means that the program is probably happy the way it is, but it's just not progressing the game. So for example, maybe it's waiting for an interrupt to come in. We're not sure, so let's keep poking around. So it looks like pin 16 interrupt is not being used on this board, but 17 is, so let's check that. All right, well that's stuck high, so that could be quite a big clue as to what's going on here. If we back up a bit and see if we're getting data from pin 11 on 1D. It's pin 11 there. Okay, so we are getting a signal. If I back this out a bit, we can see, and I think you need to get at least two traces. Okay, so that is measuring at 60 hertz. So this is the V-blank signal. And in fact, we can see that clearly on the schematic here. VB is video blank from the video board. So that is coming through. It's making its way at least to here. So because we do have a clock signal here at pin 11, which is the clock input, and I can see that pin 12 and pin 13 are tied to ground and 5 volt respectively. That means only PR preset on pin 10 can actually affect that. So this is probably stuck low is my guess. That's pin 10. Yep, that is stuck low. So this preset signal comes from down here at 2B LS259. So 2B, oh, and you can see here, this is a Fujitsu chip. this F logo, you see this logo and you say F. These are really falling apart at a higher rate than other manufacturers. So when you see these Fujitsu chips, you should give them a second look. Gonna probe around. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. That's quite a strange looking signal, but I don't think it's actually bad. It is on a data bus, so actually seeing 3 different states kind of makes sense. The low state is ground, the middle state is floating, and the high state is 5 volts, so that's fine. I don't think the issue is this 259 because its enable pin is not being enabled. And if we follow that enable pin, it comes in through a AND gate, and you follow that back, it has to do with the IO request here. This is not being triggered, again, I think because the program is not running. So this stuff is never going to happen. So that's, I mean, that's a problem, but I don't think we're quite in the right spot yet. Going back up to the Z80, the other input that comes from this V blank is bus request. So let's take a look at that. Pin 25, 25. Pin 25 is high. So let's see if that is working properly. So again, on the same chip, 1D, so pin 3 on 1D should be our V blank signal, which is 60 hertz. Let's back this out. Yes, it is still there. So this has 2 inputs that can affect it. The data on pin 2, which is high. Could follow that down and see where that comes from. And the clear, which is pin 1, which is low. So if the clear is stuck low, then that means the data that is supposed to be coming into pin 2 could never be put on the output. So let's follow that back. That takes us to 3A. So 3A is over here. I'll check pin 1. Okay, output is low, as we expected. Pin 2 is low. And that must mean that this should be low as well. Okay, well, we've got a floating pin. All right, so we found a floating pin on a logic chip. It's not very common that you would see floating pins at all on something that does something simple like an AND or an OR. So I'm going to follow this back, see where this pin is generated, and hopefully we'll find our trouble. All right, so if we follow this, we're going all the way up, a little bit higher here. We're going, oh, it's the very top line. Follow this all the way over. Comes down here, but that goes to another input. Follow it all the way around. Oh, all the way over here. So this goes to 7A, 374, which is a latch. Pin 19. Okay, so 7A is way down here, and it is another Fujitsu chip. So pin 19. Well, that truly is floating. So the input is just on the other side. So for 19, the input would be pin 18. And it's always enabled. Well, I mean, I don't even need to check this. It doesn't really matter what it is. So for a chip like a latch, that's always enabled, which means the enable, which is sometimes given the signal G for whatever reason. If it's tied to ground, that means it should always be outputting a high or a low signal. If it's outputting something that's stuck in the middle, like this floating pin, you've got a big problem here. So let's check the rest of the chip to see if it has to do with that one line or if the whole chip might be toast. All right, so pin 1 is grounded. We know I just mentioned that's required for our output. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, this is dead ski. Well, I definitely got to check this chip out. I'm going to desolder it and we'll test it. Okay, popping the offending chip in the T48 programmer, which has been great, by the way. Highly recommend it for EEPROM reading and writing and logic IC testing. 374. Test. All failed. Okay, well, that was at least one of our problems. I have another 374 here, so let's pop that in and test it while we're here. And that one's all normal. So let's install a socket and we'll use this one. All right, now that we know we've got a good chip, let's install a socket in the board, put the chip in and see what that changed. All right, with the new chip in, let's give it a test. Okay, well, I mean, that's promising. 80 coin. Maybe that's what it does when it's on free play. Anyway, let's try it out here. Put some letters in.
Ladies and gentlemen,
there's the sound.
go.
The voice chip, I mean, working. It's looking pretty good. Oh, okay. It's not looking so good. Oh, and it reset. Very interesting. All right, so we're seeing two issues. One is that something is wrong with the graphics output for the player character, and the game also just reset at the start of a fight. I'll try that again to see if that is happening consistently or if that was a one-off. Let's try it again. Let's see, so it was kind of right as soon as someone threw a punch, I think?
Right, left.
Yeah, weird. So I believe these first 4 dip switches are for the coins. Those are all set to on. That would be free play. So let's turn these all off. We should get the proper title screen. I'm going to turn on dip switch M, which will put on the attract sound, because I want to see if that sound is working. Okay, so that's looking very nice. That's the top monitor. Check the bottom monitor. I think that's all good too. Yeah. The background is getting corrupted as we play. There, and then that reset. Okay, the manual does say there is a test mode, which is dip switch P. So let's turn that on. Dip switch P is the last one there. Turn that on. RAM test. 8C is okay. 8D is NG, no good. So 8C is this one here, and 8D is this one here. So maybe this RAM has gone bad. If we do indeed have a bad RAM, that's a good reason why the game would reset. What else can I see in this test? Maybe the test won't go forward with the RAM testing bad. I'm going to check the signals on that RAM before I desolder it to see if there's anything amiss. So after checking those pins, everything seems to be normal as far as I can tell. So I'm going to desolder the chip and test it. Alright, so I've removed the RAM. It's a Toshiba TC5533P, and it's a 4K by 8 SRAM, which is a bit weird because the ones this size are usually 8K. But I can see on the schematics that pin 6 goes to like a selector, like high or low, to access 2 different modes of the RAM. So I think that means that a 6264 SRAM, like this one here, will probably work in its place, but I'm going to see if I have anything that can actually test this one. Okay, no, I don't see anything I have that can actually test this. So next best thing, I'll just put in a 6264 and see if it works. I believe because of the way the wiring is, it will just disable half of the RAM, so it will be 4K instead of 8K. Should be no problem. Okay, standard 8K RAM is in there. No, still no good. Okay, I'm gonna keep poking around. So even with the standard 8K RAM put in, the game does actually run, and I know it won't run without a chip in there at all. So I do think that probably the original RAM that was in there wasn't bad, so maybe I'll just put it back in. This sea of audience member heads is a little frightening. Well, the game has devolved to the point where the test mode won't load at all anymore. And if I go back to the game mode, it starts, but like I'm not seeing the main logo even come in here. I don't know if I have music. Don't seem to have any sound. So it seems like we're in a worse position than we were before. It really seems like something has stopped working, or maybe has degraded while we were working on it and has now finally quit. The next thing I want to do is check the ROMs, which we haven't actually done because we haven't been able to see that part of the test ROM, which would come after the RAM test. So let's take the ROMs out and check them against MAME. So according to MAME, the order of the ROM starts at 8L and goes to 8F. So that would be starting over here and working their way this way. As you can see, 2 of the ROMs have been replaced already, so there's a good chance that something else has gone wrong with one of these 3. But let's check them all out. So I'm going to be using my All07 Universal Programmer here. You can see I'm running this DOS window in a virtual machine. But I will put in that 8L. That one is a 2764, so let's find a compatible one. That's fine. We're just reading. Doesn't matter which manufacturer we choose. And then I'll go down. There's punch out. And I'm looking at CHP1, and it's the CPU board, and I'm starting with 8L. There it is. Okay. Binary. And we're going to hit the verify function. We'll take a look through, and it says OK. And our last one is 8F, and this is actually a different type of chip. It's a 27128, option 7. And we're loading 8F. Verify. Oh, we have an error. Interesting. Let's try again. Oh, another error. Let's read the whole chip. Okay, let's see what's in the buffer. So there's data there, but even the first byte failed. So I'm going to say this could be an issue. So let's just burn a new one while we're here. Might as well. Got another 128. Put that in there. I'll load the file again so I'm not writing the bad stuff. 8F. Okay, program, yes. Alright, so that programmed okay, so let's give it a shot. Okay, with that chip in there, back in test mode, let's turn it on. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, okay. Alright. That could have been it. Let's go back to game mode. Reset. Okay, well I guess we had this before.
Ladies and gentlemen, Flash Joe.
Music and voice is still fine.
Right,
Oh, look at that.
left, left,
Little Mac is back, looking great. All those graphic errors are fixed.
left, left.
Let's see if it will reset. Let him give some shots in, because that seemed to be what triggered it. I think it's okay. Let's check the bottom screen. Yeah, it looks alright. No, that is obviously not okay. Let's compare this screen to what it looks like on MAME. So you can clearly see here that while most of the colors are correct, we have a bunch of extra blue, especially in the center section. Basically, a bunch of the backgrounds should be black, but they're showing up blue. So the color output that goes to the monitors comes through these 6 PROMs. So 3 of them are for the lower monitor, and 3 of them are for the upper monitor. So these are the 3 color PROMs here, 7F, 6F, and 6E. And the information comes through here where different values get mixed at the same time here. So we have all these ones that come down this line here come from the main video board. So that's going to be details like the little Mac that shows up on the high score screen. And these other lines coming back through this section here go back to the 2 ROMs of the 4 that are on the backboard. And so these 2 are the blockier graphics for the top screen. So the character posters, for example. So if I remove these 2, which are the tile graphics for the top monitor, and then here's where like the posters would be on the left and right, and we have all these extra blue graphics. So you can see how the palette selection is independent of the actual graphics being shown. Right here, SC0 up to 4 is actually the palette information. So which colors can be displayed based on these other ones comes from SC0 to 4. So we follow that down. That comes through a latch here at 4H, and the information is all stored back here in this RAM. This is the RAM over here, and it's also a Fujitsu chip. So my first inkling is to grab a 6116 SRAM, like this one here, and do a little piggyback and see if that changes anything. No, still same issue with that RAM piggybacked. So no change, piggybacking that SRAM, so I don't think it's gonna have any effect. I think that RAM might be fine. So the next thing to check would be the color PROMs themselves. I'm gonna pull off the blue one and check it against the MAME archive and see if there's any programming errors there. At least one prominent site offers a 6-piece color PROM replacement set. It's so common that they go bad. So I think the issues we're having are all with the blue color showing up too often. So that will be 7F, and we got 7F right here. Okay, back on the all 07, I'm going to go to the B PROM, bipolar PROM, and I believe we have an 82S131. That should be right there. And back to the punch-out ROM set, and we will be looking for CHP1-B, which is the back board. But you will notice there are 2 copies in here. So there are 2 types of bipolar PROMs for punch-out. Basically, one set is like a negative of the other set. So I believe the way it works is if you have 157s and 352 or 353s, you need one set of bipolar PROMs that are referred to as either the pink or the white set. I think these are white based on the stickers. And if you have 257 or 153, you need the other set, which I think is the pink set. So I'm going to try the white set first. This will be a great opportunity to try my flap adapter. So this is a little flash memory chip on a little circuit board that can plug into a PROM socket. So the benefit of this, besides the fact that bipolar PROMs are just rare and kind of expensive, that you can rewrite this chip as many times as you want. So a case like this where I don't know which one is the right one to write might be useful here. Okay, I have my flash chip plugged into my T48 and selected the flash chip 29F010B. I'll load 7F white. This is the white one, program. All right, success, let's check it out. Okay, now I have the 7F white PROM loaded. I will put the chip back in my flap adapter and we can plug it in just like so. Okay. So now I think I'm seeing too much blue, even more blue than we had before. Let's wait for the next screen. Okay, now we're oversaturated in blue. Even the part behind the verses that was black before is now blue. So I think we should try the pink PROM image instead. So see, if I had a regular PROM, I would have wasted it. Now I can just pull this out and I can try again. How neat is that? Okay, I placed the same chip back in the programmer. Let's load the pink one instead. 7F pink. And program. Okay, I got a good feeling about this one, so let's turn the sound up a little bit. Okay, that still looks good. High score screen looks good. And there we go. All right, let's compare real quick with MAME again. Okay, there we go. Colors are restored. Let's go back to the guy who thought he was done yesterday. All right, so I'm calling that fixed. That was 2 very weird things. So we had a logic IC that was not working, that was not allowing the bus acknowledge signal to get back into the chip. So once we replaced that 374 that controlled that was completely dead. That was a Fujitsu chip, by the way, so be sure to look out for those. That brought the game back to life. Then we had the no good RAM error, which ended up not being the RAM at all, because I have the original one back in here. So, I guess it was the last ROM, 8F, that was causing trouble both in the test mode and in the main game. We replaced that, and we're back in business. And with that, my work is done, and I'll see you next time.